Thank you, Zoe. Can we clap it up for her one more time? Honesty and vulnerability and truth that we've been getting on the stage this week is amazing. And it's a blessing to hear. It's a blessing to see how God has worked in miraculous ways in so many of our community's lives here at BAAYF. So this week, our theme has been legacy. And so tonight, it's my turn to share a bit about that. Thank you, Kenny. So, legacy. Lucky for me, we have been talking about it all week, so I don't really have to define it anymore because everybody else did. So I'm just going to repeat what they said. We learned that legacy is something that is transmitted or received, like an inheritance, but it's not limited to money. We also learned that legacies are created by being impacted first, and then impacting others, and then those people paying it forward. With Pastor Terrence, we talked about finding our purpose as believers, and how our purpose was attached to us at birth. And because it was attached to us at birth, no matter how young you are, you can be used by God. And that was really powerful. And then yesterday, Chriselle showed about how we're all gifted by God, and that through our gifts, we're able to leave a legacy. For Chriselle, and for some of you, that gifting is compassion. But for myself, since I'm talking about me, that gifting is leadership. So tonight I'm going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about what it means to be a leader, both the ups and the downs. And not just a leader, but a Christian leader. A leader who's a believer, because there is a little bit of a difference, and so I'm going to talk about that later. But to start, a little bit about myself. Many of you know who I am. I'm Erica, I'm the director here. But not many of you know much about my story, where I come from, what I've done, yada yada. So I'm going to share a little bit about that now. I grew up in the church, literally. My mom's water broke at church, so I was almost born in church. They had to rush to the hospital. My father was ordained at 18 years old, started preaching, was an assistant pastor for many years, and then became the head pastor of a church in San Francisco when I was 12. And he remained the head pastor until I was about 22. So I grew up watching my parents lead. My dad preached every week. My mother led Bible studies. They both led couples in marriage counseling. My dad did weddings, funerals, seminars, you name it, he did it. And my mother was right there with him. And she did all of it as well. I don't know, do you guys have the term first lady at your churches? Like the wife of the pastor? No? Oh, I don't want to mess it up. Say it. Simo. Okay, so I guess that's what she was. But so it just meant that she had like her own full position at the church. And so both of my parents were extremely active. And so they instilled this leadership drive in me from a very, very young age. Almost every summer, through like middle school and early high school, I was getting sent to some kind of leadership camp. I went to DC for this mock trial leadership development thing. I honestly can't tell you what city it was. It was the middle of nowhere. They sent me to this camp to learn martial arts with like this massive stick. And they like woke me up at 5 a.m. to take care of horses. They made us run like 2 miles at like 4:30. I don't know where my mom found it, but she found it. And like Zoe, she signed me up, so I went. So it was what it was. But it was important to them that I developed good leadership skills and understood what I was capable of if only I applied myself. And they had this saying, and I don't know if Emerald or Todd remember, they would always say the difference between an A and an F is, of course Todd doesn't remember. Emerald, do you remember?
Is it something about your hard work?
Wow. Oh, it's a good thing they're not here. They would be very disappointed. Is discipline. A for effort.
You're welcome.
Yes. So the difference between an A and an F was discipline. It was just how you applied yourself. And so for me, growing up, it was as simple as that. And that was the kind of motto that I lived by. And so going into high school, I did all the things. I was on the dance team where I eventually became the co-captain. I was in leadership class where I planned prom and other senior activities. I eventually became the ASB vice president, which is the Associated Student Body President, so the entire school. And so, because of that, I was known around the school by everyone, including staff and faculty. I very rarely got in trouble because of it. There's this one funny story where I got sent to the principal's office because I was in AP Chem and I had to use the bathroom. I had to pee really bad. And when I have to pee, I'm one of those people who just, like, you gotta let me go to the bathroom. And so I raised my hand and I said to the teacher, I said, Miss whatever, I have to use the bathroom. And she was like, well, you can't go. And I was like, okay, but I have to pee. So, like, what do you want me to do? And she was like, well, you're just gonna have to hold it. And I'm like, but yeah, that's not gonna work for me. So she was like, well, if you get up and go, don't you dare come back. Go to the principal's office. I was like, cool. So I got up and I left. And I went to the bathroom. And when I tried to come back to the classroom, she locked the door. And I was like, okay. So I went to the principal's office. And he said, Erica, why are you here? I said, I had to go pee. He was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, I know, but here we are. So now what? And so I just hung out there until class ended, and he went and talked to her, and it was no big deal. But it was because of the leadership roles that I had and the way that I was seen around campus that kind of made a way out of no way sometimes when I was growing up. But anyways, outside of school, I was in an entirely different dance team because I really like to dance, and I was also heavily involved with my church and with just church stuff. When I got to college, I helped start a Bible study, shout out to the Bruins, and of course, I had BAAYF. And as I mentioned before, I have been a part of this camp for 18 years. I was a camper first, obviously. My last year as a camper, I got to MC the campfire, which was super fun. Then I became a counselor. I did that for a couple of years. Then I was asked to share my testimony, so I did that once. I led a couple of seminars. I was asked to be Dean of Women. I did that for a couple of years. Then I was Assistant Director, and I did that for a couple of years. And now here I am today, as you see me, the Director, and I've been doing things for a couple of years. It's been really great, and I love this community very much. At my church, so I'm giving you guys a full press court of all the things about me really quickly. So, at my church, at Reality SF, I was the nursery team lead for 4 years, and now I'm one of the coaches in the village, is what we call our kids ministry, and so I do a lot of training of the volunteers who join our church. And so I'm also part of the renovation team at my church. We're revamping our entire children's ministry, and because we go to a large church, it's a lot of work. But all of that to say, in my few years of living, I've gotten quite a bit of leadership experience. And so, although I love it, it also can be very hard. I don't wake up every day excited to lead. Some days, I just don't want to. Some days, I am just tired. Some days, I straight up feel incapable. I feel like I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. There's people that look up to me or are looking to me for advice, for encouragement, to teach them something, to lead them somewhere. And it, at times, can be overwhelming. I think when people see you as a leader, they see you in prominent positions, they often think that it must come easy. And although, in some ways, maybe, in that I am, like, this is who I am naturally loud and just a teeny bit bossy. And so because of that, people tend to hear me, and they are usually pretty good at following what I say. But just because I have those natural characteristics doesn't make what happens up here easy. I regularly struggle. And so one part of my story that I haven't talked too much about on stage, some staff knows and have been around for a while, and I've been here for a while, so they know. But I haven't mentioned much about my parents, or what happened to their marriage, or how that's affected me. It's a long story, but in a nutshell, I told you all before that my dad was a pastor. He was ordained at 18 and was assistant pastor, then became the head pastor when I was 12, and to remain that way until I was 22. What I didn't share was how he had to step down as pastor because of some of his behavior and life choices. it had come to light that he had been unfaithful a lot, had some really inappropriate relationships with a lot of people in and out of the church, probably has other kids outside of me and my 2 siblings that you guys know. He lied, he cheated, he deceived. And then he left our family my senior year of college. Left a letter on the dining room table for my mom, and that was that. And it was on some like, it's not you, it's me, type whatever. Obviously, crushed my mom. They had been together for 30 plus years. She was the only man that she had known in every sense of the word. And so it was hard. It broke her, it broke our family, it broke me. And to this day, still trying to bounce back. Hasn't been easy. My dad was my idol. I looked up to him. He was the best man on earth as far as I was concerned. I was much closer to him than my mom. He taught me what it meant to be a Christian. He taught me what it meant to be a leader. And I was who I was because of him. So, now what? Who was I now that he wasn't who I thought he was? Where did that leave me? Having him eventually fail so miserably as a leader left me to question the type of person that I am, the type of leader that I've come to be, what legacy I wanted to leave behind. Would I follow in my dad's footsteps? Because I'm so much like him, am I capable of hurting people the same way that he hurt people? Am I capable of the level of disappointment, of abandonment? Would I do those same things because I am so much like him? And it didn't help that I had the same thing coming from the outside. People telling me, you are your dad's child. You are him. You're just a girl, but you're him. And what used to be a compliment, what used to bring me joy, I now kind of dread it. It gave me a lot of anxiety. It stressed me out. And I even got it from my mom. She hurt people often hurt people, and my mom was hurting. And so she would say things to me like, you're so much like your father. If you don't change, no one will love you. You're gonna be by yourself if you don't change the way that you behave. Why aren't you more like your sister? She's nicer than you. Things like that. Because hurt people hurt people. So I love her and I forgive her, but it is hard. It has got to put a strain on our relationship a bit, but we're working on it. But I had all of these thoughts, all of these ideas floating through my head and trying to figure out who am I. I felt like I had kind of lost my identity. But thank God for community, for my church, for my friends, for therapy, that helped me to realize that although I am like my dad in many ways, my goal is to be like Christ. I still am who I am because of my dad. Obvi, science, genetics. I can't change that. But God is the one who can transform me from the inside out. No matter how similar my personality traits are to my dad, I had to remind myself daily that I am more like Christ. I have been made in his image, and because of that, I'm able to lead. So, our theme verse this year is from John chapter 14, verses 12 to 14. But I want to zoom in on just verse 12, where it says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater than these things." So, it says, whoever believes. So, we are believers. And it says, whoever believes in me will do the works that I've been doing. So because we are believers, we are able to be like Christ. We're able to do and impact others the way that Christ did. And so, as I was thinking about all of this to share with you, I'm sitting at my computer, I'm typing, I'm at a coffee shop, I have some music playing in the background in my headphones, and I don't know if you guys have heard, probably, it comes on the radio kind of often, it's popular right now, is Lauren Daigle's song, You Say. Have you guys heard that before? Yeah. So I love that song, like a lot. Literally, the lyrics are words that I have cried, they are words that I have prayed, and so they're often the words that I will sing to myself. Some of the lyrics, like, I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak, and you say I'm held when I'm falling short. The only thing that matters now is everything that you think of me. In you I find my worth. In you I find my identity. You hold every failure, God. You have every victory. I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me, I believe. And those words have been such an encouragement. It's even hard to put into words. But I ended up having to revamp what I understand a leader to be. The world tells us that leadership is about being right, making people follow you. The world tells us that leadership is about how many people are coming to your seminar, how many people are on your committee, how much money you have raised. But being a Christian leader, not quite. It's not about being loud. It's not about being bossy. It's not about being the strongest or the tallest. It's not about being able to manipulate people to get them to do what you want. It's not about your ego, and it's definitely not about never failing. Christian leadership isn't about titles or positions. It's about one life influencing another. Doesn't matter who we are or in what capacity we serve. So, what more does the Bible have to say about this? We're going to look at Proverbs chapter 16, where we can see a ton of leadership lessons. Like, every single verse has something. So we're going to look at a couple of them. So let's throw up there the first one in Proverbs chapter 16, verses 1, 3, and 9. So it says, "To humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." What does this mean for leaders? A good leader then seeks God's direction, commits their ways to the Lord, and then allows him to establish their next steps. Verse 5. "The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished." What does that tell us? A good leader is modest. Nobody likes a know-it-all. And I don't think any of us want to be detested by the Lord. That doesn't sound appealing. Verse 7. "When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them." What does that say? A good leader is a peacemaker, someone who can empathize, see things from someone else's point of view, and then compromise when appropriate and necessary. Verse 8. "Better a little with righteousness than much with gain, than much gain with injustice." A good leader is fair and just. It's not just about saying the right things, but actually doing the right things. Verse 13. "Kings take pleasure in honest lips. They value the one who speaks what is right." Meaning a king loves to be around people who give good, sound advice. In Proverbs 15:22, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." A good leader surrounds themselves with honest, trustworthy people that they will listen to. We are not islands, and we can't live this life on our own. Sometimes we need people who can provide sound advice or check us when we're just wilding, which is why you saw the first day of camp when we introduced the entire staff. I need every single one of them. Every single one. Because they are there to support me, to help me, and to put me back on track if I ever veer. We all need that. We all need that somebody or somebodies in our lives. Chapter 16, verse 16. "How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver." A good leader is a good learner. You don't know everything, I don't know everything, even when I'm in charge. A good leader is always learning and willing to grow and improve. Verses 18 and 19. "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to be lowly in spirit, along with the oppressed, than to share plunder with the proud. But with many advisors, they succeed." So, a good leader is humble. Just because you become a leader does not mean you're invincible or above reproach or can't be corrected. 22 to 23, I told you guys, this entire chapter has a ton of lessons. 22 to 23. Prudence is a fountain of life to the prudent, but folly brings punishment to the fools. The hearts of the wise make their mouths prudent, and their lips promote instruction. What does this mean? Simply that a good leader is sensible and kind. Being smart and sensible, meaning wise or practical or responsible, makes a good leader more effective. And then lastly, 32. Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city. What does this tell us? A good leader is slow to anger. We've all seen the angry boss on TV, or unfortunately, maybe you know that angry boss in real life who yells for no reason, who barks orders. Don't be that guy, because nobody likes that guy, ever. So, there's much more, but these are some good places to start. And so this is the kind of leader I strive to be every day, and that I encourage each of you to try to do the same. And this is not about perfection, trying to be perfect, avoiding failure. You don't need to excel at all of these all at once before you can start to lead. But as you lead, you should work to cultivate these kinds of characteristics. And so it's up to us to kind of put aside our human tendencies and our habits and the things that the world tells us we should be doing or how we should be acting, and start to embrace these types of principles. And so when I was thinking about this, I thought, well, who, aside from Jesus, is another great leader? And the first person that came to mind was Uncle Craig. He lived out all of Proverbs 16. He sought God's direction. He was modest. He was a peacemaker. He was fair. He was just. He loved being around people who gave him good advice. He gave good advice. He was a learner. He was humble. He was sensible. He was kind. He was smart. He was wise. And he was slow to anger. He also was habitually late for everything. And as a type A person, he was terribly disorganized. He did not believe in the concept of time at all. He wasn't particularly bossy. He was very sweet. He was very kind. He was very loving. He was just kind of a big softie. He would cry at the drop of a hat, happy tears or sad, it didn't matter. But none of these characteristics are normally associated with being like a big, strong leader. And yet he led, and we all followed. Because being a leader isn't about telling people what to do. It's about inspiring people to act. And in our case, inspiring them to act to the glory of God. And Uncle Craig inspired many, including myself. Sorry, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. Each of you has a sphere or a circle of influence, an area that God has placed you where you have the ability to impact others. One of my spheres, or my circles, happens to be at this camp. I get to work alongside and impact the lives of campers, of counselors, of staff. I get to do the same at my church, and I love it. Your sphere could be at your school, at work, at home, with friends. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to be the strongest. You don't have to be the tallest. You just have to be you. Because you are enough. You are capable. All of you are leaders. I was doing the Devo this morning, and I really, really loved it, in Esther chapter 4. Esther was a young queen who got called to lead in a very unexpected way. She happened to marry a king, and therefore became a queen, lived very well, was well taken care of, was pretty much chill. And then got called to lead in a way that actually could put her in danger. And so she was like, not sure that's a good idea. Don't think I want to do that. I think I just won't. And so her cousin posed a really powerful question. And he says, and who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? And he was saying to her, maybe God put you there for this very reason. And so, If you're wondering why God has allowed you to end up where you are right now, just think. Maybe it's because God has something very specific, very important for you to do that you only could do where He's placed you, in the situation that you're in the place that you are. In Esther's case, this position, like I said, actually put her in a bit of danger, but God placed her there in order to save the entire Jewish population. And maybe God wants to use you too. Your time will come when God will appoint you to lead, to set an example, to impact those around you. And my heart's desire is that all of you would just say yes. I'm going to pray. Lord, I pray that we would embrace your calling on our lives. That we would set aside our own inclinations and what the world says that we should be doing. You gave us the ultimate example of leadership in Christ. And I pray that you would transform our hearts and transform our desires so that we become more and more like Him. For those of us who feel challenged by the thought of being a leader, that feel like being a leader just isn't for them, Lord, I ask that you would ignite a fire, that you would give us a drive and a purpose, reminding us that although it may be hard, it's worth it in the end. Because being obedient to what you have called us to in this place and in this time is worth it. Lord, I ask that you would just move in this place, that you would touch hearts, that you would open eyes, that you would open ears to hear what you have for each and every one of them. Lord, I know that you have brought every camper here for a reason and for a purpose. And so, Lord, I ask that you would just begin to plant that seed, that they can look back on a night like this, at this week of camp, and say, that's where it started. That's when I knew. That's when I experienced. That's when I saw God move in my life. And that years down the line, we can see that this tree that has grown, that has bore good fruit. God, I know that you can and will do amazing, amazing, amazing things through the lives of each one of our students. And so, I thank you, and I praise you for all I know that you can and will do.